Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we'll be showing you how to repair your appliance. Remember, anytime you work on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. Also make sure you turn off your hot and cold water supplies. In this video we're going to show you how to change out the Samsung washer clutch assembly. It's going to be a very easy repair and it should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can click on the link below or get it at AppliancePartsPros.com. When you open up the package, you're going to get the new clutch assembly. The clutch assembly goes in between the drive motor and the washer tub, and it's what switches the washer from agitate to spin. The main reason to be changing it out is if the internal parts have failed and it's not shifting, or the water seals have gone bad and you're getting water leaking on the floor. In order to change out the part, we have to take off the hot and cold water lines. So we're going to put a towel down to catch any water that might spill out. And then we're going to take our pliers and remove the fill hoses. Make sure you remember which one goes where. They're labeled on the machine, hot and cold. Once you're ready to take them off, you can grab your pliers and loosen them up. Once you break them free, you can just loosen them with your hand. We're going to take our Phillips screwdriver and remove the two big screws that hold the top to the frame. There's one on each side. All you have to do is unscrew them. Then we can remove this small access panel. If we don't take it out, when we try to lift it up, it's going to jam up right here. So we're going to take a Phillips screwdriver and remove this screw too. Once you have it out, you can carefully pull the panel off and set it aside. Now that we're back at the front of the machine, we can tape the lid down. You want to make sure it doesn't fall open when you lift the whole top up. So put a piece of tape on it to hold it down, and then we can grab a putty knife and go about 6.5 inches from each corner. There's a little metal release tab. You should be able to feel it, and once you hit it, you'll be able to feel it as you push in. It springs back, so you can press that in and then lift up on the top. Once you have one side released, then you can go down and do the other one. Now that we have the clips released, we can lift the top up. You want to be very careful with this as you lift it up. You're going to have to bring it forward a little bit and make sure that the brackets where the screws went through on the back come up and rest in these little drop-ins where the suspension springs are. And then you want to get a piece of wood, and just like a car, you want to put it in here so the top is supported. And you just want to be careful because there's no hinges on the back, and you just want to make sure you don't drop it while you're working on it. In order to get the tub cover off, we have to use our Phillips screwdriver to remove all the screws. Now that we have all the Phillips screws out, we can lift the tub cover off. All you have to do is lift it up and pull it out of the machine. Now that we have the tub cover out of the way, we can reach in to take out the pulsator. First thing we're going to do is take off this cap. You can get a small flathead screwdriver underneath it and pop it off. Once you have it off, there's a 10mm bolt underneath that we're going to use a socket to remove. Once you get the socket on the bolt, you may have to reach in with your other arm and hold the pulsator so you can take it out. Once you have the bolt out, you can lift it out. With the bolt out of the way, we can take our small flathead screwdriver and get into one of these openings right here and lift the pulsator off the shaft. Once you have it off the shaft, you can lift it out of the washer. Now that we have the pulsator out of the way, we're going to use a large adjustable wrench to remove the nut that holds the inner tub in. And you're going to have to bang on it with a hammer, so make sure you use a rubber mallet. You don't want to damage the inner tub. And it's also reverse thread, so you're going to have to go to the right to take it off and to the left to put it back on. You're also going to have to hold on to the tub while you're tapping the hammer so it doesn't spin the tub. Once you have it broke free, you can reach in and remove the wrench and just unscrew it by hand. Now that we have the nut out, we have to take the inner tub out. There's still a washer down there around the shaft, so when you lift it out, make sure you don't lose it. If you have the type of washer that we do where there's no hinge on the back, we're going to have to take the piece of wood out and lift this up so it's straight up and down, so we have room to lift the drum out. If you have somebody to help you, you can grab them and have them grab the other side. You might have to shake it to break it free if there's any corrosion or anything on there, but once you get it going, you should be able to just lift it right out. Now that you have the inner tub out, we can get rid of this piece of wood, and we're going to have to put the top back down so we can lay the machine on its front so we can change the part from underneath. Once you have the top lined up, on the locating pins, you can push it back down so it locks into place. We can lay a towel down. We're going to lay the washer on its front. We don't want to scratch it up or the floor. Remember to get somebody to help you if you need to. You don't want to drop the washer, it is kind of heavy. Now that we have the washer laying on its front, we have access to the part. First thing we're going to do is remove this bracket. We're going to use a 10mm socket to remove the screws that hold it in. Once you have both screws out, we can remove the bracket. There's a little tab on each side that holds it in, so you have to squeeze a little bit to release it, and then you can pull it out. Now that we have the bracket out of the way, we can remove this 17mm nut that holds the rotor onto the bottom of the stator. We're going to use a socket and take it off. It may be a little tight, so you may have to grab it right here and hold it while you turn the nut. Once you have the nut off, you can pull it out a little bit so you can get the washers off. Once you have those off, you can pull the rotor off and set it aside. Now that we have the rotor out of the way, we have to take the stator off. First thing we're going to do is disconnect the two wire harnesses. There's a locking tab on the back side of this one. All you have to do is press it so you can pull it off. The other wire harness has a locking tab on each side, so you have to squeeze it and pull that one off. Once you have those both off, you can get them out of the way. So we can use a 10mm socket to remove the bolts that hold the stator in. Once you have all the bolts removed, you can pull the stator out. Now that we have the motor out of the way, we can remove the cotter pin that holds this little collar on. All you have to do is pull it out. Once you have it out, we can take this collar and just move it back off the end of the leg and put it out of the way. Then we can use our ratchet again with a 13mm socket, and we're going to take out these 6 bolts. Now that we have the bolts out, we can pull the clutch assembly out. The seal is pressed into the tub, so you're going to have to put your fingers underneath the clutch and wiggle it to get the assembly to come out. Once you have it free, you can pull it out of the machine. Here's the old clutch assembly next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. Before we put the new clutch assembly in, you want to make sure you clean this area out. If it was leaking, you want to make sure you get any residue out of there so that when the new clutch goes in, you get a good seal. To put the clutch in, all you have to do is line it up and push it up so the seal goes into the tub. Once you have it in, we can put the bolts in to hold it in place. We're going to use our 13mm socket to put these back in. As you're putting the bolts in, you want to go across corners and tighten them down opposites, because as you're tightening them down, you're actually getting the seal to set in there too. Once you have them all in and snug, we're going to go around and tighten them all down. Now that we have the clutch assembly installed, we can take this protective cap off so we can put the rest of the machine back together. To put the drain motor yoke back on, we're going to grab it and slide it over the end of the shaft here. Once you have it up in place, we're going to take our cotter pin and push it back in so it locks and the yoke doesn't fall off. Once you have that in, we can put the drive motor back on. All you have to do is line it up and push it into place so we can put the bolts back in. You want to make sure there's 3 little circles right here. You want to make sure that this one's at the top, so the electrical connections are over here at 4 o'clock. Once you have it in place, we can use our 10mm socket to put the bolts back in. Now that we have the stator back in place, we can reconnect the wire harnesses. All you have to do is push them into place so they lock and you get a good connection. To put the rotor back on, all you have to do is line it up and have the shaft come through the center. It is magnetic, but you may have to turn it a little bit to get the teeth to line up. Once you have it lined up, we can put the washers and the nut back on. Once you have the nut down as far as you can turn it, we're going to grab our 17mm socket again, and we're going to hold the rotor and the stator together while we tighten it down. Once you have the nut tightened down, because we were moving this tub around and shaking it a little bit, you want to make sure that your suspension rods didn't fall out of their holders, and you want to make sure that they're in there properly before we lift the washer back up onto its feet. Next, we can put the bracket back on. All you have to do is slide it underneath the tabs on each side and line it up so the screw holes are lined up. Once you have both sides in, we can use our 10mm socket to put the screws back in. Now that we have the screws tightened down, we can put the machine back on its feet. To lift the machine back up on its feet, you want to come around the front and get somebody to help you if you need it, because just like when you laid it down, it's heavy. So carefully lift it up and put it back on the feet. With the washer back on its feet, we can lift the top back up so we can put the tub back in. Same as when we opened it before, we're going to press in the release tabs and lift the top up and support it with a piece of wood. Once you have the top properly supported, we can go grab the inner tub so we can put it back in. Now that you have your inner tub next to the washer, we're ready to put it in. We're going to have to lift the top up and take the wood out, just like when we took the tub out. And again, if you have to grab somebody to help you, make sure you do that. You don't want to drop anything or break it while you're putting it in. And we're just going to lift the inner tub in and set it down onto the shaft. Once you have it in there, you may have to turn it a little bit to get the teeth to line up. Now that we have the inner tub in place, we can put the wood back into its position so the top is supported and we can put the rest of the parts back in. With the inner tub in place, we can put the washer and the nut back in. Remember, it's reverse thread, so in order to tighten it, we're going to go counterclockwise. Once you have it snug, we can grab our adjustable wrench and hammer, and same as when we took it off, we're going to carefully tap it down so we don't damage the inner tub. And as you're tapping it down, make sure you grab the top of the inner tub and hold it with your hand. Once you have it tightened down, you can reach in and take the wrench off, and then we can put the pulsator back in. To put the pulsator back in, all you have to do is set it back onto the shaft. Once you have it down on the shaft, if it doesn't drop straight down, you may have to spin it a little bit to get it to drop down. Once it drops down, we can put the bolt back in place and tighten it down with our 10mm socket. Once you start to tighten down the bolt, you may have to hold the pulsator to tighten it down all the way. Once you have the bolt tightened down, we can put the cover back on. There's 3 locking tabs that line up with the 3 tabs here. All you have to do is line them up and snap it into place. Now we can put the tub cover back on. All you have to do is put it down into the machine and make sure you line the bleach dispenser up by that corner where the bleach goes. Once you have it down and in place, we can go around and put all the Phillips screws back in. Now that we have the part installed, we can put the top of the washer down. You want to lift it up carefully and pull the wood out. And then you have to lift the back up so that comes out of the bracket, and set the top back a little bit, and then set it down so we can close it, and it lines up with all the pins so we can snap it back in place. Once you have everything lined up, you can just snap it back down so the retainer clips lock it in. Now that we have the top back down, we can put this access cover back on. Just like when we took it off, you're probably going to have to pry it out a little bit with your screwdriver to get it over that tab. Once you have it down in place, you can kind of twist it at an angle to get the tabs in. And then we can put the screw in with our Phillips screwdriver to hold it in place. Once you have the cover back in place, we can put the 2 screws in to hold the top to the frame. To reconnect the fill hoses, all you have to do is start them by hand and get them snug. Once you snug them down, you can tighten them down with the pliers to make sure you get a good seal. When you're hooking up the water fill lines, make sure you hook up the hot one to the hot side and the cold one to the cold side. Now that we have the fill hoses reconnected, we can take the tape off the top, and you can plug it back in, turn the water back on, and take it for a spin. Thanks for joining us for another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Check out our other repair videos on our site, Facebook, and YouTube.